What is up, fam? Daniel here, and welcome back to Hold True Apologetics, where we seek answers to tough questions. Well, we began the journey last week. We began this journey looking at this question of who is God? Who is God? And the purpose of this journey is that we saw, and we looked at last week, I encourage you to check out the video, that how we understand God directly affects and impacts every aspect of our lives. For example, if we view God as a distant God, then when we're going through difficult times, we're never going to reach out to God. We're never going to pray to God. We're not going to think God's even involved in any way. And we just got to do everything ourselves. Why? Because we believe God is a distant God. And so the list goes on. If you believe God does not exist, that directly affects how you live the rest of your life, how you see your purpose, how you see what you're doing today, how you see your value. So how we define and understand God is absolutely important and is not a side issue. It's not just an intellectual issue. It affects every aspect. So therefore, that's why we're looking at these weeks. We're going to look at who is God, because we need to have a right foundation on which we need to build our lives. A right foundation on which we're going to build our lives. Now, these next few weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what the Bible states, aspects and characteristics of who God is. Aspects and characteristics of who God is described in the Bible. And we're going to challenge us on two things. Two questions we see. First, do we see God like this? Do we understand God like this? And second, how should that change and impact my life today? And so today we're going to look at one attribute of God. And this attribute is called holiness. His holiness. Now, this phrase, this word holy or holiness, is kind of used in a weird way today. I hear people saying, holy smokes, or holy cow, or we just throw the word holy around for different random things. There's random songs called holy. And it's like, we just kind of like, what does it mean? I think we overuse the words at times, or overuse this word specifically at times, that we lose what it actually means. And so when we say God is a holy God, I think many times we don't really understand what that means because we've overused the word and many times misused the word. So I'm going to look at what does it look like in Scripture? What does it mean when we say God is a holy God? Because all through the Old and New Testament, God is described as holy. And in fact, Dr. Jeremiah, he states that holiness is the fundamental attribute of God. Let me just point out a few verses to you so you just see a picture. In Psalm 96, verse 9, it states this: "We worship the Lord in the beauty of His holiness. Tremble before Him, all the earth." Exodus 15, verse 11. "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praise, doing wonders?" Leviticus 10:3. "By those who come near to me, I must be regarded as holy, and before all the people I must be glorified." In Samuel 2:2, no one is holy like the Lord, for there is none beside you. None besides you. So as we see, there's many verses, but I just want to point just these few, and we see this clearly through Scripture that God is holy and should be regarded as holy. But that brings us back to the question, okay, but what does that even mean? What does it mean that God is a holy God? What does it mean that God is a holy God? And Dr. Jeremiah, I encourage you to check out his book. It says the God that we may not know. He states two aspects that kind of encompass the holiness of God to help us have a better picture. The first you notice is that God's holiness means God's holiness is His separateness. Let me explain what I mean by that. God is not us. All right, God is other. God is not us. God is not just an elevated human or a smarter, more intellectual, more well-connected person. No, God is not us. Numbers 23 verse 19 says, "God is no man that He should lie." Hosea 11:9 says, "For I am God and not a man." What does this mean? God is God and not us. We are not God. God is not us. He's not just smarter. He's not just stronger. He's not just more connected. Rather, He's the only uncreated, eternal, all-powerful, self-existent, transcendent being. He's the only one outside of the created universe. There's none like Him. No one even comes close. So that's the first aspect we see, that there's His separateness. There's none like Him. The second thing about God's holiness is that It means his complete and utter purity. His complete and utter purity. We all know people that might be, that person's good, that person's bad. We use those phrases. But even the good people, how we label good people, even the good people we know are not totally pure. We know they have sin, they have corruption, and so forth. But God, on the other hand, is absolutely pure, uncorrupted, unstained by evil. Do you want to hear that? He's unstained. He's absolutely pure. 1 John 1:5 says, God is light, and in him there is no darkness. So when we say God is holiness, there's two aspects to understand God's holiness: that he's other, that he is separate, that he is not us, and also that he is totally and utterly pure. Throughout the Bible, we have many people that have experienced or seen and been in the presence of God's holiness, such as Moses is one example, but I want to point out one person to you today, is Isaiah. Isaiah 6 verse 1 through 5, we have this encounter the prophet Isaiah has, and I just want to read it to you. It says, in the year of the King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him was seraphim, each with 6 wings, with two wings to cover the face, and with 2 wings to cover the feet, and with 2 wings they were flying. And they were calling out to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, and the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among people of unclean lips. My eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. So 2 things I want to note from this, real quick. This is Isaiah's experience of seeing the glory of God, or at least an aspect of the glory of God. 2 things I want to know. The first thing is when the seraphim, or angels will say, are circling the throne, they're singing, Holy, 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 holy. They're repeated 3 times. Now, in the ancient Hebrew language, they don't have a way of emphasizing the way we do with the exclamation points. What they would do is rather they would repeat the word. So, for example, when Jesus says something, many times he'll say, truly, truly, I say to you. He's emphasizing the importance of what he's about to say when it's repeated. And the same thing here, when it says holy, 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 it's repeated and emphasized even more because it's done 3 times of the importance of this aspect of God, that he is holy, that he is other, that he's perfectly pure. The second thing is Isaiah's response. He responds basically by falling on the ground because he realized he is nothing compared to God. That God is holy and he is not, and he's not even in the same playing field as God. And this brings us to our last point. How should my understanding of the holiness of God impact me today? First, I believe it helps us have a right view of ourselves. When we understand that God is God and we are not. That God is God and we are not. The second, it helps us see our sin in true light. And really, when we understand the holiness of God, that's where we have Isaiah here. He understood. He says, I'm a man of unclean lips. He understands how sinful he was. And he has no right to stand in the presence of this perfect, holy God. When we understand the holiness of God, that comes clear. And the third, this should bring us to worship. We understand who God is, the creator and sustainer of the universe, that he is holy, that he deserves our worship. Well, I hope that challenged you guys today. So the first aspect we looked at is God is holy. All right, we're going to be looking at more these next couple weeks. I encourage you and challenge you to check this out and share it on to other people you know. Hey, if you found this video helpful or challenging, I want to encourage you to share this on to your friends, your family, anybody you know, and as we journey through understanding who God is more clearly these next weeks.